All right, what's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Babbers Batch. It has been like a 4 month hiatus, right? I think
Yeah,
for us.
yeah. I think
Yeah, we have.
since January?
Yeah,
No, I don't even think we reviewed the Sankranti movies, right? So
no,
probably like December, I think, was our
yeah,
last.
yeah. So we apologize for the short gap. We've had a lot of dog shit movies in Tollywood, and none worth reviewing. So we are back with Dhurandhar 2. We're gonna be reviewing it today. We have three guests here. We'll let them introduce themselves along with Ankit and Sai. You all know them. So if you guys want to talk about yourselves, maybe one of your favorite movies and yeah, all your
Hi, I'm Nikki. I like going to the movies, all kinds of movies. And I watched Dhurandhar 2 on opening night because I'm quite a big fan of Ranveer Singh and I really enjoyed the first one, so was really excited to get to see it.
I can go next. I'm Ria. Also was a really big fan of the first Dhurandhar, so I watched opening night with Nikki. Um, and yeah, I like a lot of different types of movies, Bollywood, English, really anything, but um, I mainly gravitate towards like either really funny or like really suspenseful movies.
I'm Oishee. I got to watch the Dhurandhar 2 with Ria and Nikki, and a big reason why I wanted to watch it was obviously the first one and Ranveer Singh, as Nikki was saying. In terms of my favorite movie genre, it would probably be thriller or horror. Specifically, my favorite thriller movie is Ittifaq.
Nice. Think you didn't go with them, Akil?
no, I did. They just didn't mention me. So I was
Wow.
shook. They kept adding on a different person, and I was like, I guess I wasn't there. Um, Whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I love it. The fuck, that's a good movie. Akshay Khanna is crazy in that too. But yeah, well, it's nice to have all three of you on. Obviously, this is a big movie, so and I think it's mostly like positive talk. So maybe we can start with like I don't know, what should we do? We usually do pros first, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can do positives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's gonna stay on to hear us. If they say cons, people like all four of our viewers will just leave. So can't have that. All right, I can start off with pros. I'll just do one. Like one, we can all do one at a time because I feel like there's so
Yeah.
many pros I don't want to take from like just start rattling it. The biggest the biggest pro for me. So I mean, I'll just start the first 25 minutes. I was absolutely just drawn in. That was my favorite part of the movie. Um, Incredible. That's probably the best action set piece I've seen in Bollywood like ever in my lifetime. I can't think of anything that even rivals that. Just the pure adrenaline and the action choreography and the Ari Ari playing in the back, like that was the best part of the movie for me, and it had an incredible opening. I love that shit. That was by far my favorite part of the movie, like scene wise. Yeah,
Every time I looked over you at you during that scene, you were like smiling so hard, and I was like this, and you were like
yeah,
so happy.
yeah. And obviously, this is a spoiler review, just because you can't discuss this movie non-spoiler, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like
Nobody knew
enough
what
of
to do.
people have seen it. Yeah. And we don't even know what the 12 people did by that point. I was just happy to see people die, and I was like, oh, bet there was a reason to root for them anyways, root against them anyways. So, yeah, that was probably my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Like, I think that the beginning was definitely the peak for me as well. And then I wouldn't say it dropped, but it just kind of like stayed like a step below the whole movie for me after that. Just because I think they started on such a high note that nothing really matched up to it. But anyways, my other pro is I'm sure like we're all gonna say it, but I'll say it. I'll be the first one to say it. But I thought Ranveer Singh was crazy in the film. I mean, the first one alone, like he killed it, but he didn't have much of a role, I would say, in the first one comparatively, like his character. It was just more of like a, person in the background, kind of observing things, learning and stuff like that. And then in this one, he just goes like unleashed and he kills it. Like every single scene, every single dialogue, it's perfect. Um, as much as I hate the guy off screen, on screen is he's incredible.
He's so cap off screen, but
Yeah,
thank God
off
he's
screen,
talented.
I honestly I can't, dude. Every video I see of him off screen is just cringe. But on screen, I'll give him credit. I mean, he makes up for it. Like if he was really bad on screen too, he's just a cap person overall at that point. But he makes up for it on screen. He's really good. So that was like another big takeaway for me. Like I thought he killed it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I like the rarely ever do I like, the sequel better than the original, but I definitely think for this one, I like the second one a lot more. And I think a large part of that is, just like everyone else on the call, I love thriller, suspense. Those are my favorite genres too. But when it comes to action, a ton of action, I felt like the first one was a little bit overwhelming in that regard. This one, I felt like it was balanced perfectly. It was definitely a little bit more gory, but I felt like they still focused on the plot, the storyline, and the action was like, it was supplemental to it and adding to the storyline versus sometimes I feel like when it's overwhelming, it can take away from it. It's like we're losing it here. That was one big benefit that I liked in regards to comparing the first one to the second.
Yeah, I agree. I think the second one for me, I liked it better too, just because of like all the backstory that you get. I felt like with the first one, it was you still are very connected to Ranveer's character because of what he's going through and like knowing that he's doing it all for his country and like feeling his sense of patriotism. But I think in the second one, getting to see why exactly he is the way he is and like how he reached that point. And then just also like seeing how far deep he got in. I think it really like upped the suspense because they really show you like how brutal they can be, especially if they find out that you're um, kind of like a double agent or whatever. So I thought that part was really cool, just kind of seeing where he's coming from and um, the character development for him. I thought was really cool in the second movie.
I think going off of the backstory part, I really appreciated the kind of going back to the first movie and those excerpts as well. Again, this is a spoiler, so I'll say it, but I think the part where he sees his best friend, his childhood best friend walk in from the airport and kind of panning to what we saw, like some of the excerpts we saw in the first movie was definitely very helpful. And there were other points in the movie as well that we kind of went back and forth. So I did really enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of my favorite parts was the fact that like the stuff that was set up in Dhurandhar 1 actually came to pay in Dhurandhar 2, like his Chaiwala friend Alambai or whatever, like him getting killed, him killing off Sanjay Dutt's character, him actually going through and then taking down Buddy Saab, all that. Like I feel like they really touched on every single point in Dhurandhar 1, so I felt like that was really good plot and like moving the characters forward in that. I really liked how they did that because something like his friend dying, right, Alumni, like that really gives depth. And he went back to the same restaurant that they first met, and I felt like that was a really good end to their character circle.
Yeah, it really did feel like part two. Like it wasn't like completely different or they didn't like completely ignore all the setup that was done in part one. It really did feel like they literally cut the film in half. So it's like one long, like 7 hour movie, which is great. Because usually in films, like for with sequels especially, like they just kind of forget everything that happened in the first one. So I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was I feel like that was another thing for me was actually I didn't feel the runtime as much. I feel like in one I definitely felt the runtime a bit because like you spend so much time in Liari and there's like a lot of scenes that kind of stretch in number. I talked about this in our review. But this one I was like, okay, there's so much shit going on. Right? It almost felt like there could have been a part three, honestly. Like it felt like there was scope. Um, I mean, I'll talk about that in the cons, but the pacing I thought was good. I was not bored for like a single minute. And like you guys said, interval with like the binda shit, that was crazy. Um, I also really liked how like I know Yelena is not in the movie that much, but the scene with like her and Ranveer when she finds out was so good. And this is only like her third, second movie or some shit, right? Um, she was really, really good in that scene. Uh, And the way he sat her down and was like, "This is not against about Pakistan. This is about the bad people in Pakistan," and then slowly went over all their attacks in like such a calm and rational manner, and like the way even like her anger subsided was just really good. I know people have complaints she's not in the movie that much, but like, what the fuck do you want to see? Like, what more can her character do at that point, right? Like, she served her purpose. And then shout out Jamil Jamali, bro. Crazy. That was a crazy twist. I don't know if any of you saw that coming, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I didn't think so.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then I love how he says all that stuff to her, and then the next dialogue he's like, "Yeah, India's gonna decide Pakistan's fate." And I'm like, dude, you just undid everything you just said, but it's fine. Uh,
You
yeah,
need some Modi glaze in there, right? You need some propaganda in there.
yeah, yeah. I feel like they try to appease like all types of people that would come in, like political wise. But yeah, I mean, you can have your own view on that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I
Also,
think.
the songs, like I know a lot of people said like they thought the songs were not good, but I enjoyed the songs for this one. Like it is like a little bit like a step below from the first one, I would say over like as an album, but I didn't like hate them as much as like some people are. Like I didn't think it was bad music. Like I still like there's this one song that like obviously Ari is good, but then there's also this one, the one with the girl. I forgot the name of the song. Um, it's called Jaine Sajana. It's a pretty good song. It's hype.
Wow, what a pronunciation.
Yeah.
Rock star. Bollywood debut soon.
Dude, I'm Telugu. I can't speak Hindi.
No, how to pronounce it the same
Um,
way.
but yeah, no, the album I would say is a positive for me. Like I like the album. And I think like I'm probably like the only one from all you guys that I actually enjoyed the first one more than this one,
Oh,
which I can kind of go into in the cons, but yeah.
I agree
Anyway,
on the music. It wasn't so bad, but definitely the first one was better.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think my personal favorite is May or Tu, which I'm also butchering, but that has been on repeat from this album.
What other pros did you guys have? I know we covered music and the performances and pacing. Anything else from like you three or Ankit or
Mm.
Sai, you two?
I mean,
I
I
think
think like
the
the oh, you go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say like the hype moments. I think, like you said, the first 25 minutes, then like the interval, then like the ending. I think they really built up all the hype and then they delivered, you know. So I think those three moments really carried the movie in terms of hype and action.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar, especially with the post-credit scene. Like I feel like the way that they built that one up, because the revelation wasn't even that shocking. I feel like when they first introduced his childhood friend's character again, we were all kind of wondering like how does he not recognize him? It doesn't seem like he's changed like all that much. But even then when they revealed that he actually knew it was him, I still felt like it was a really big shock, even though it wasn't like that crazy. I think the way they built it up was just really, really well done. And then it hooks you into the second half. And then the second half I feel like was it went by so much first better than the first half, like so much faster, just because it was like the pacing was from that point forward like very, very intense.
Yeah, I agree. It was like pivotal, and I kind of you talked about it with Jamil and Molly. Just the at the points they dropped the plot twists and things like that, it did keep you engaged.
I think another pro of mine is that Hamza or Jaskirat, he didn't get to meet his family after he went back to visit them. I know that's a very heart-wrenching take, but I think that kind of showed that he has outlived that part of his life. And I think his acting was phenomenal in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I
dude.
liked how they left it like open-ended like that. Like
Yeah.
you kind of didn't know what he was gonna do, but you understood the dilemma though. Like you saw like what he was like thinking internally without him having to say any dialogues or anyone saying any dialogues, which was really good acting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I love the ending. I thought it was beautiful. Dude, I mean they're getting their money deposited every month. It's been how many every year since he left? He killed his brother-in-law, right? So like coming back and seeing your family doing better off without you, like do they need more trauma? I thought was really good. It would have been some like YRF Spiver shit if he came back to his family. And I don't know if that would have worked, especially given like the fact which is really sad because even when like Jamil sends off Hamza, like he loses both families for his country, right? He's never gonna see Zion or is it Zion and Yelena again.
Yeah.
He'll also never get to be in like Pathankot with his family again. So he gave up everything for his country, which is a beautiful circle because that's what he wanted to do as Jaskirat, right? Like when they're standing outside the house, and Binda is, I'll give my like life for this nation, and he did. Not in the way he wanted, but he still did. So it was a beautiful character arc, and I thought his Jaskirat performance was insane, dude. Like I know the Hamza stuff is it's still good. It's like, but the like his expressions when he goes from pure anger and the switch up when he sees his sister in that shed from like anger to just vulnerable, it's insane. Also shout out to like the girl who played in that scene. Like that was crazy acting when she just starts like violently screaming and stuff. So the switch up Ranveer does, or even going from like cool and collected to seeing Pinda at the airport, and he's just like gets a panic attack. Like I don't know how he switches so easily like that. Right. So he's crazy, dude. He's so good.
I was gonna say one thing, I forgot. But I'm pretty sure I said all my pros, like most of my pros. Or everyone else also like covered. Like I had the
Yeah.
same opinions.
Yeah.
So um anyone else have anything else?
Any positives before we
Yeah,
jump into
more
bashing?
positive.
No? All right. Here's where we shine, right? Here's where our
Yeah.
podcast gets its viewers for.
Whoever stays this far in, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be like Sai and Nicole. All right, I'll start with the biggest con. There's no Akshay Khanna. There's no strong villain in this movie. That's literally his biggest weakness is like Major Iqbal is Loki a bitch. Like his like paralyzed dad cooks his ass every single day. And like I don't take him seriously, bro. Like, what are we doing here? Like, how come we're killing off Zahur Mistri, all these guys you built up beautifully in part one in a fucking montage song, right? Like, why is Rizwan killing half of them? Why is Madhavan being FaceTimed during someone's death? What is going on? Like, that's what I really didn't like the way the villains were handled. That was my biggest con.
Yeah, no, I agree with the villains. Yeah, definitely Arjun Rampal wasn't. I think he should have been built up as a better villain than he was, like given the Akshay Khanna treatment, but his character wasn't. Um, but then my biggest con was also like the reason why I would say that the first part was better for me. I felt like there's quite a bit of parts in this film that kind of just kept going, like in terms of like montage scenes that could have been like, cut down or not really shown much, where not really much was happening other than like them showing a bunch of explosions and shit like that. Like in the first half, I think like it was like them like trying to burn down Liari to get to the Pappu guy. Like that whole stuff goes on for like 10 minutes. And then like in the second half of it, there's the montage scene of them like killing these random terrorists and stuff. Other than the people that they've shown us before, like these random terrorists, they would kill one and then show their file, like, oh, this guy's like erased, like so on, right? They did that like 10 times. So it's just like things like that where I was like, okay, it's not part of the story really. Like you can move forward. Um, and then like this whole thing comes under the length. Like, yeah, stuff was happening, but I just felt like it was a lot of filler. Even with the climax, like when they're fighting, like I just felt like it kept going on and on, like with Arjun Rampal versus Ranveer Singh. Like that happens for like 30 minutes. Like I think they could have really cut that down. So I just didn't think that this needed to be 4 hours long. It could have been shorter. And I felt like in the first part, I was more enthralled throughout the whole film than I was in this one. Like in this one, I sometimes I was like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do. Like you can move on. Like I felt like that more than I did in the first part. So that's
Yeah.
like my biggest con.
You didn't like the Wonder Woman axe by Ranveer to cut off Iqbal's foot? That shit was like straight out of
Oh,
some
at
like
the end. Yeah, yeah,
Tollywood,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
I was like, what the fuck
Yeah.
is happening?
And then the whole when they get to the train station, it just kind of like it just goes like into a different place.
It's like a
Like the whole
cartoon.
action becomes crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I did also feel like Ranveer in this movie was like very untouchable in some scenes. I like at the end that they did show it was kind of like a fair fight at sometimes between Major Iqbal and Hamza, but I feel like there was times in the movie where it just felt like Ranveer went from being this very quiet, soft power type of guy in the first movie to all of a sudden being a very indestructible character, which at times made it less thrilling to watch because you kind of had the assumption that nothing was going to happen to him. And then the montage scenes, I think, too, kind of they could have been done better. I think the ones that I enjoyed the most was where Ranveer was had a personal vendetta against these people and was carrying it out, as opposed to him kind of just like ordering Rizwan around or these masked goons to like go kill people. So I think yeah, they could have cut some of that stuff and put more focus on him like actually carrying out his personal vendettas.
Yeah, like the kills that they actually built a story around were great, obviously.
Hmm.
Like that one guy that has all the money stocked in the
Yeah,
warehouse or whatever. Like certain kills like that, they built like a mini story around, like of him going and like killing him and all that. That was all fine. But it's just like the continuous like 10-minute montage after that of like random people dying. And you're like, all right, you can move on. But
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. I felt like that kind of takes away from like start to sympathize with the villain almost when these scenes go for so long and you're like this kind of
yeah.
takes away from I think the point. For me, this might be a hot take, but I feel like the Uzair Baloch like that storyline didn't make sense to me very much and I didn't really love it either. I actually kind of was missing. I thought that this could be a great way for him to be incorporated more or create a storyline around him. Also, I thought he was kind of attractive, so it's just like good to see him on the screen. And then like after he was already captured, then at the end they were like, well, we can pretend that he's a double agent. And I'm like, that didn't really make that much sense to me, but that's something I think could have, if handled well, could have added to the movie where now it's like it's kind of just like a very sideline, very side storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Uzier got screwed. Like from the beginning, from part one, that dude was played by every single character.
It's so sad.
That's what I feel like. I felt like every, like you guys said, I felt like every villain was turned into like a clown in this movie. Like Ozero was like off screen for like 4 hours, and they're like, let's just put all the blame on him at the end, and then
Literally.
we just killed Major Nick. But like I just feel like like Arshad Papu in the first movie got like one scene, and I was like, all right, he's gonna have a huge part in the second part, and then he like dies in 5 minutes, and I'm like, all right, like why are you so this like villainous guy if you just I feel like all the quote unquote like powerful people were just turned into clowns, and just like Aria said, like Ranveer just kind of eases his way through the whole movie. Like that lack of a struggle was something that I felt like made the movie a little boring.
What
Yeah, he
about you?
definitely had more struggle in part one, I would say, comparatively, especially because of how strong Akshay Khanna's character was.
Hmm.
What about you? Oishii, you have any cons? Outstanding cons?
I think I have a couple. In terms of Uzair Baloch, that was a pretty big con for me as well. I think I was disappointed that it seemed a little hasty, in my opinion, to kind of just have him as a solution. I also think Jamil being a double agent was a huge twist, obviously, but I think it felt a little hasty because it's just it felt like too much of a stretch. And I don't know, I'm very perpetually online, so I keep seeing all of these reviews about how it might be based off of true story, and that's too much of a stretch at that point.
Wait, I disagree. For some reason, I feel like I saw it coming. I don't know. He was just giving me like his like personality traits were giving like Indian. I don't know how to
Yeah,
describe it,
that's
but
actually
like
so fair.
it was
Dude,
just,
I thought Alumbai was the handler. That's why I was like, oh, like we know his
oh,
handler. So I didn't even know there was another dude. That's why I was like, I
Yeah, they
yeah,
call him like a supervisor or something, right?
Hmm.
yeah, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Well,
I
I
didn't know
mean,
he had multiple.
it makes like for me it makes sense because like if you look back to his character, like he's always playing both sides, like
yeah.
wherever, no matter who it is, like he doesn't care who it is, he's just playing both sides. So it fits that role of him being a spy because yeah, he's a dirty politician, but also like he's in it to like basically kill everyone that comes into politics. So like I feel like it makes sense in that regard. But yeah, it was like a last minute like kind of tacky like add-on that is meant for like a big applause kind of moment. So I mean it worked for me, but I can see how it's not like a storyline that's built in and like, explored and all that.
I
There
think
was, you go ahead.
I think one other con I had was Alampai's kind of closure. The only reason why, because there was a scene in the first movie where Alampai is telling Hamza about how he came into this profession and how he came into the country, and it's muted out over and kind of overshadowed with music. And I was really hoping that they would show part of that story in the second one, but it was just completely avoided. So I think that was my other con. Sorry, go ahead. Okay.
No, no, that's true. Actually, I like they didn't even give him. I mean, the whole point is like India's unsung heroes. At least I don't know. I think I can go either way with like how you interpret that. But I just thought there was a lot of like you guys said, there was a lot of convenience. At some point there were more Indians in fucking Balochistan than Balochis. Like everyone and their mothers were just spies. And then I saw so many memes about. Okay, first off, this is a really niche con, but we all noticed it when Ranveer does like the same walk that Akshay Khanna does. There's a dude that keeps firing his fucking gun. He keeps jumping and firing it. And they show it
Yeah.
like 5 times. And I'm like, bro, this guy's gotta relax. Someone kick his ass out. Because that shit pisses
Also,
me off.
that
And
whole like scene did not work at all. Like
not at
I don't
all.
know why they even did it. They shouldn't
Yeah.
have repeated it, and it just didn't work.
Um,
The song was
bro,
also cap. Like it just didn't work.
bro. And that old motherfucker just supplied him with everything. He's like, oh, you need my son to die? Bet. You need guns? Bet. You need a gang war? Bet. I got you. That dude was like the fucking goat. And then one thing I really didn't like was why did Sanjay Dutt die so abruptly? Like I know that's how his real life, like Chaudhry Aslam actually died in a car crash just like that. But I thought the way they killed him was so boost. I was like, what the fuck? Like this is literally a primary character, and he just gets yeeted out of nowhere. I thought that was really stupid because he's literally one of our main guys. Well, what are we doing here, right? So,
Yeah, and I feel like they made him out to be so brutal and like untouchable in the first movie, and then so for him to die kind of like that insignificantly and low-key like kind of easily was I almost was like he didn't just die. Like there's no way they would have killed him like that. That to me kind of just seemed like a little too convenient. I feel like they could have done that part a little bit better.
They tried to make it like an intellectual death where like, oh, Hamza like played him or something, but it was pretty dumb. Like he just told him to go one way, but he went the other way.
Yeah.
And just it wasn't like super smart or anything. So
dude,
yeah.
yeah. There's a scene where he's just drinking chai in the middle of the fucking war. I'm like, bro, what is going on? In like the first 30 minutes, he's just chilling there, and I was like, dude, this guy's so capped. Uh,
Yeah, I mean that one's bad, but for me, what's worse is like the Jamil like reveal was pretty fun. Like, oh wow, it's crazy. But the scene where he literally like takes the big boss bad guy and he like slipped him that thing like 40 years back, and it was like a comedy scene. I said, bro, wasn't this like the biggest villain of the whole movie? And then you turned him into like a gag for like 2 minutes. I was like, what are we doing here? Like, just turning it into a comedy at this point. And then the one thing with the Alumbi, I did like that like he blurted out his city. He was like, "Don't let this Burley thief like let him die for his country." So I was like, "Oh wow!" Like they cleverly like got his city out because he was like, "Oh yeah, where are you from in India?" And he's like, "Bro, I'll tell you later." So I thought that was handled better. But yeah, they didn't really tell a story or anything. But that's what I thought about that at least.
Also, I feel like that whole Alam by death honestly could have been avoided. Like they could have figured out some other way to like they could have made up something, I feel like, rather than ousting him as a spy and then killing him because that obviously like no one bought. Like Sanjay Dutt was like, yeah, that's sus. Like I don't know why he did that. So I feel like instead of that, if they did something else, he could have been alive.
Yeah, that scene was kind of handled weird. Just him leaving and then like drinking and continuing to party, like doing nothing to help the situation. It was like, okay. Um, and then I understand that I'm assuming like he didn't want Allenby to get tortured or something, or was I don't think there was a fear that he would speak, but just to like minimize his sufferings. I'm like, but like you could have shot him like maybe like 10 minutes later and a half, I don't know, like a little after a little torture or something. So yeah, it wasn't very well thought out, but it was definitely sad. And you could that was like he
Yeah.
did a really good job of like kind of playing two different personalities in that moment. Ren Piercing did.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
there was a
I,
lot of like yeah, my like Mera Desh like it was like oh it's like India's big dick. Like even the Madhavan scenes I thought were so poorly done in this one compared to the first one. The first like the first time we see Madhavan like he's very human, right? It takes a while to get Dhurandhar approved. Like he can't even say like Bharat Mata ki Jai properly on the plane. And in this one he's like fucking like nonchalantly having a kid in his lap and then doing like the rah rah Rasputin reveal. It just felt like, oh, it's so easy. Like go in Pakistan, like leave, like get a few beatings and then leave. Um, it felt like there was no real stakes in this one because Ranveer was like you guys said, he was literally just that guy. Like they had to kill someone, so they probably just killed Allenby because they're like, oh, he's got to lose a little bit, right? Like he's
yeah.
got to
They
suffer a
need some
setback.
emotion.
Yeah, yeah, because 2611 was there in the first movie, and that was crazy, right? That attack on the parliament where they like killed that like female officer. All those things got you like riled up. Here, he kind of prevents everything. And then Modi makes like an appearance with demonetization. He gets like a dap up from him. So like India is just like cooking in this movie, right? They're like always 10 steps ahead. So kind of takes out the fun part where you're like, oh, are we gonna lose this time? Or are we gonna, you know? So
Yeah, even when he gets caught at the end, like, and he's getting tortured in that like Jesus position, it's literally like 2 minutes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, bro, like, release him. We saw you partying with the guy." That's like, bro, like, he gets whipped a couple times, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna leave you in the middle of the road," and then he gets picked up. I felt like that would have been like the craziest. Okay, what if he like died there? Maybe it would have been like, oh, okay, like he was like suffering that much, but. I felt like he just got caught, got a few slaps, and was like, "All right, get out of here, you scamp." So that just felt like he faced no difficulties throughout the movie.
I think it was a matter of like they chose the easiest solution for each problem that they created. Like at the end, like what you were saying with him getting out, like, oh, what's the easiest solution for him to get out of this? Oh, the person that has him captive, we caught him on camera doing something he's not supposed to. Okay, so he has to release him. There, that's the first solution. We'll go with that. So like they repeated that ideology for like every single problem in this movie, and that's why there's no stakes because you went with the easiest solution.
yeah, I'm in the camp that Ranveer Singh should have died in this movie. I think he should have died after he takes out Iqbal, and then the movie ends like shortly after. I don't like. I was huge on the fact that like his circle should have been his ultimate sacrifice for his country. That was my biggest thing. So I was like, I really like the ending because that's the second best thing you could do. He's basically as good as dead. He has no identity, he has no family. He's just kind of he's wearing like he's like a Sardarji just wandering the fucking village, almost walking up to homes. So second best thing, but I really do think he should have passed away. And then Alambai, maybe sent something to Pathankot. Or I don't know. I just think he like should have just died in the movie. And I thought he would. Really thought he would.
That's another thing I didn't like. I thought was a con and didn't really get either. Is that they don't really explore his like love for the country. Like, in the first like part when Madhavan gets him and he's like questions him and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really care about this country. Like, you guys wronged me. My dad and my grandfather were both in the army, and you haven't done shit after that." So he's like, going on about that. And then Madhavan's like, "Oh, don't worry. Like, I'll be the one to reignite the fire in you and stuff." But they don't really show any of that. So you don't really see his like true love for the country or like why he's doing what he's doing other than the family aspect that makes sense, but the actual patriotism part of it I feel like they didn't really like touch on, which they should have. I think it would have made the impact a lot greater, I think, at the end if they did that.
Yeah, I agree with that because uh I know you guys said like the ending was good, but for me it just like didn't make sense. Like the whole movie, you're doing something to seek justice for your family. And I understand that you wouldn't go back, but then I understand it signifies a lot of things, but I'm like, you just did this for your whole entire family, and then you don't even go back to them, or like, I don't know.
I
Yeah,
get,
I
yeah,
was
no, no.
expecting it.
I get what you're saying. It's kind of like, damn. And like Madhavan, to convince him, all he says is, Jessica, I'm Martha. And he's like, oh, yeah, you got me there. I am a man. Might as well just do it. Like, it's all he needs to say. And he's like, yeah, fuck it, bro. You made me remember who I am. I'm like, all right, man, can we do it like a little bit more? This is the Madhavan, for Christ's sake. Like, give him a dialogue or two. Um, but yeah, sorry, like Ria and Oishi, you guys look like you're about to say something.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with the whole, like, we don't really know what it is that's motivating him. Like they talk about his backstory, and I think that's interesting, but then part of it is like, okay, your family will be taken care of. And then the other part of it is like you stand to benefit from this personally. But yeah, I feel like they didn't explore enough about his patriotism besides just saying that he's a third generation, you know, army person or whatever it was. But um I feel like the backstory was for me one of the highlights, but I wish they'd kind of gone into that a little bit more instead of all of the montage killing.
Yeah, I like at least a few more scenes between him and Madhavan, I think would
Hmm.
have helped like increase that motivation level in him and also us like seeing that
Yeah.
too. So yeah, definitely. Instead of cut out the montages and put more of that, and that would have been a lot better.
I think I definitely agree with the need for a backstory. And I think it was Ankit who was saying this, but I also think that scene where it's kind of done in a comedy where Jamil is shaking hands with Dawood's character, that was another hasty point. I think that's maybe this is propaganda. I'm using that word lightly here, but I think that was partly a little rushed and also just taking credit for something that might not have happened. Similar to um, the bombing of the car as well. I think that was definitely kind of patched in a little hastily.
Yeah, I think another thing that I didn't like was, I think the friend coming back was crazy for the interval. But if you think about logically, like, all right, he came all the way from India to here. How did it happen that he came directly to the same place that Hamza, his childhood friend, like, he went through all this to get here, but then his childhood friend comes here just because, oh, they needed help from India. Like, I felt like it was really coincidental that that happened, and they just added it in to kind of be like, oh yeah, here's this plot point. All right, finish it right now, and you can tell because after the interval happens, like he's never like the rest of the movie never talks about his friend ever again. So I felt like that was just there to kind of like put in a character arc and then finish it.
I would have liked to hear more about his backstory because, they kind of originated in the same area and, exactly in polar opposites. So I felt like that was a storyline, just like you said, that could have received a little bit more attention if they were gonna make it such a pivotal point in the movie.
Yeah, I actually did like the juxtaposition because they originated from the same place. They have similar traumas, um, but one decided to fight for their country, the other decided to kind of poison their state um, with drugs. And I really wish they kind of gave more storyline for Pinda. Yeah. Um, just to kind of give him that background. But I am glad that he took care of the family and raised two kids, I think. That was sweet. But yeah.
Yeah, like they had no dialogue between them. Like as soon as he calls him out, it just turns into a fight and then he dies. So I feel like having like at least a couple minutes of dialogue between them of just like, talking before they get to the, fight, like I think that would have helped establish that guy's character more. I mean, I think all he says really is like, yeah, like you don't care about us, like you just left or something like that, and that's really it. Like he says one line to Ranveer and that's it.
I think he gets more and more aggravated because he's taking so many drugs at once
Yeah, he was also like drugged up at that point. Yeah.
and also he brings up the fact that, oh, like, are you kind of a double agent, and that's when Ranveer Singh's character starts panicking. So I definitely think that was I wish there was some more dialogue there as well. Um, I do think Ranveer Singh's, I guess, makeup and everything when the way Pindo was perceiving him was definitely interesting, and apparently they actually did all of the makeup in the back. They didn't use any CGI or anything like that.
I thought that part was cool because like the way that Binda is seeing him in that moment as like the lion. Later on in the movie, I think the probably one of the final acts when he's having that fight in the forest with Major Iqbal, he looks like that lion. I think that like his hair is all messed up and he's covered in like gunpowder and stuff. So I thought that was like a pretty cool callback. And it makes me think that maybe the movie's a little bit self-aware of the fact that Hamza kind of loses himself a little bit in the second part. So I feel like that callback was pretty cool, but I don't think it kind of erases sort of all of the convenient plot lines that they put in there.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a great scene in one where Ranveer kills Akshay Khanna and he goes to his little journal. First of all, what spy is leaving this fucking book behind just for his wife to find, right? Whatever. He's like shaking as he crosses off Rahman Daket's name. Like he's shaking, he's sweating. Even like in that fight scene with Rahman Daket, he he doesn't have the upper hand. Even Sanjay Dutt, they're getting their ass beat every single second of the climax in the first one. Anytime Ranveer like needs to fight someone, there's hesitation in the first one. He gets beat up. He almost gets fucking, molested in the first scene of part one. He is like very, very like he very rarely actually takes someone on with complete ease in the first one. Here, that book aspect is completely ignored. He kills person after person with ease. He's grabbing his dick in front of like three people and being like and saying like, "Oh yeah, king my ass." I don't get it. I really think like the Just Kirat leaves in part two, and that Just Kirat is still very there in part one. Even though we don't have the backstory, you see Just Kirat playing Hamza. Here, it's just Hamza, the super spy, and that was my biggest thing. Was just like, damn, he like was so calculated. He was so scared before he even laid a punch on anyone in part one. And here he's like, fuck that, I'm the king. I'm gonna sit on the throne and smoke this cig. You can't touch me. So very disappointing that they completely like just made him a superhero. And fucking Pushpa 2 did this shit. KGF 2 did this shit. Like all these sequels just make their leading man just God. Um, you know.
They
So
tried to, I think, explain it or like write it off by saying like, I think Madhavan says it to him. He's like, "Yeah, you have full power now. Like, we have all the support from the government, so just do whatever you want." And then that's when he like goes on like the killing rampage with that montage of killing all the random terrorists and stuff. And yeah, basically gets the confidence to do whatever he wants. But he was already kind of doing that earlier in the movie too, but it just goes to extreme in the second half.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Akil mentioned earlier that I agree with, like when he like chopped off Major Iqbal, like he said it reminded me of him of a Tollywood movie. Like, and I felt like I know some of these people here haven't watched KGF 2 or Pushpa 2, but I felt like this movie, the second half at least, like it dives into this whole like larger than life, which is kind of crazy because the first part was so grounded, and like now you got badass cigarettes, smoking, he's all dressed up in suits and all that stuff, and I'm like, all right, what happened to the realism? What happened to the groundedness? Like, I guess they just wanted some like explosive. I feel like they were kind of influenced by KGF 2, that type of over the top nature.
Yeah. I feel like they were trying to find the balance between it being realistic and then also being like this is the movie where he goes wild and like really delivers on all of the setup in the first movie. So I feel like at times they struck that balance really well, but throughout the movie there were definitely a lot of times where it seemed like they were just going for the shock factor or for like the adrenaline action thriller vibe instead of it being what I feel like was so fun about the first movie is that it is an action thriller, but it also felt like very clever, and it felt like he was kind of manipulating people from the inside in a way that didn't really show his cards. Whereas in the second one, he it just didn't seem like he was being careful at all, and it was kind of just for the benefit of having an action sequence with a bunch of guns. So I feel like there was times where that balance wasn't necessarily struck.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with you guys. I think the second one definitely feels a lot more close to films like, yeah, like KGF, Pushpa 2, even Animal. Like it feels a lot closer to that zone. Whereas the first one's like completely different. Like it's on its own kind of, zone of storytelling and even like how the characters behave and everything. So that's also one of the biggest reasons why like I think I enjoyed the first one a lot more.
One of
Yeah.
my smallest nitpicks that like is like thing is they're him and Alambai and like him and all of his allies are talking about like India, like supporting them, like just out in public, like sitting in this tea stall, and I'm like, all right, bro, like you're not worried that like you're gonna get like somebody over here or whatever. Like I felt like that was just that annoyed me so much. It's such a small detail, but I was like took me out of that continuum of like, all right, this doesn't feel like a spy thriller anymore. It's just people talking about, hey, bro, like I'm actually a double agent. It's like, yeah, yeah, let's just work. Like it just took me out of the loop.
At least Ramon the Gate's wife gets to slap someone in this one. She write a passage from one to two. So, good for her. She got her probably got paid like a few lakhs to slap a dude and then like dip the set. It's like the dream, right? I would love that.
I hope they did multiple takes.
Dang, you hate Ranveer like that.
No, I just think it'd be fun to like slap him.
Yeah. Um, that's funny that you mentioned Animal. I low-key forgot how much I hate Animal. I remembered again while watching this movie. I was like, wow, Animal was so ass. Like I already thought it was bad, but I'm just like, this is probably what Animal thought.
It
Like
was
I
kind
know
of
you
funny.
didn't like it as much, but this is what Animal wanted to be.
Yeah.
Um, but then, instead they talk about like underwear and rashes and shit instead for half hour in that movie, but it's for another day. Any more like cons that we have? No.
I think that's
Okay.
it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, maybe we can do rating and then say like which movie we liked more, like a quick spiel so I can start. I liked it when I walked out. And I think that's the problem with like the way like we talk about movies or think about it. Like as my first experience, I liked it more than the first one, just purely because I felt a lot of lag in the first one. I think I enjoyed the second one more, but I wouldn't say it's a better movie than the first one in like a filmmaking aspect, character aspect, realism aspect. But I liked it. I would still give it. I think I gave one like a 8.5. I'd probably still give this maybe like slightly less, 8 to 8.5. But I think both movies it's a worthy sequel. I like it as much as the first one, you know. So
Okay, I can go. Yeah, like for this one, I it's not like much lower than the first one for me. It's probably like a step lower. I think the first one I gave either an 8 or 8.5, same. But then for this one, I would give like 7 or 7.5, like just a step lower than what the first one was for me because I did enjoy that more. Still a really good film. I think as a whole, like all 7 hours, I think it's definitely worth. I would definitely recommend people to watch it if they had like, if it's on Netflix or whatever, I'll be like, yeah, check it out. Um, so yeah, I still enjoyed it overall.
I
Yeah, I
think my
agree. I like
rating.
the first. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Sorry.
So I like the first one better. And I don't think this is a bad movie by any sense. Like I think it's a step below. And I definitely wouldn't rewatch just because like 4 hours is kind of crazy. But also like number one at least gave you more pack rear punch in terms of 3.5. But like you can kind of rewatch. But I still think it's a good movie, so I'd still say like a 7.
So I like the movie quite a bit. And again, like based on when I was watching it in the theater and real time and how I left after, um, I definitely feel like I left with a more positive impression. And just the pace of the movie I thought was really good. Like I was engaged and entertained pretty much the whole time, which is important. So my rating will be honestly, I'll give it like an 8 too. It's pretty high. And I'd actually rewatch it too, and I would recommend everyone to watch it if they haven't already.
I think I definitely enjoyed this movie. Kind of, you've verbalized this really well, Akil, but I enjoyed the second one definitely, but I did like the first one. And mind you, I watched the first one at home on Netflix. So even though I lost the component of watching it in theaters, I still was very engaged with it. So I think that was 8.5 kind of holistically, including music and everything. This one I would say is a step lower, but I would recommend it even though it's very, very long. So I'd say maybe a 7.
I think for me, I the first one I really, really enjoyed, and I went into it completely blind. I had no idea it was even like a violent movie. But I really enjoyed the experience of watching it, and I felt like it didn't feel like 3.5 hours at all. And I actually watched it in theaters twice. So I really enjoyed the first one a lot. I think the second one, while I was watching it, I enjoyed it more than I did the first one. And I think it's just because you're kind of already in that universe, you're coming into it with certain expectations, and you're just excited for him to like finally get to kind of like go crazy and do what he really wanted to do in the first movie. I think thinking back to it now, the second movie is packed with a lot more plot points. I do think some of them are kind of far-fetched and maybe not like perfectly executed. So I think for me, they both have their pros and they both have their downsides. I would say the first one I would give like maybe a 9, and I would say this one I would give probably a 9 as well, or maybe 8.5. But um, I think they're both really good. I wouldn't see myself rewatching the second one, but I did rewatch the first one. So
Gosh, I'm the only one that liked it more.
No, I did too. I flat out like I enjoyed the second one more than I enjoyed the first
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I went into the first one with sky high expectations, and I was like, okay, it's good. It's pretty damn good, but like I expected it to be like a master class in cinema, and it wasn't that, right? Like neither one is. And I think the second one I went in previews, didn't read reviews, and I was like, holy shit, he's going crazy. Obviously as reviewers, like we always think about these things because like that's content. That's what you think about, like negatives. But when I'm watching a movie, like some of my favorite movies have billions of flaws. So I enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed the first one for sure. But I wouldn't say it's a better movie. Like I can acknowledge that one's a better movie. I can also acknowledge that I enjoyed one like more than the other. So yeah. All right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Okay.
If we're, I think we're good then. Well, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on. That was a solid hour of us talking about the film. I hope at least one viewer has made it this far. But yeah, no, I mean, we'll keep it going. I don't know what's coming out next, but I think you should keep it going soon. Telugu wise, like there hasn't been anything. It's been a shit show.
Don't
So
worry, we'll review one of the shit show ones soon.
yeah,
I I watched in
it's
theater for that
done.
reason.
Oh my God, you actually, oh, yeah, I mean, of course you watched it, but no, I'm down to review that when it comes on Netflix because I'll watch it and we can roast it.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one for me to do, but I will do it. I will be there. Yeah, like Sai said, thanks for joining. As always, make sure to subscribe, listen to our platforms, and then hit us up on socials if you want to collab. So, thanks, guys. It was great having you on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys.